Hello, everybody. It's Monday, August the 29th, 2022, and thankfully, the preseason has come to an end, and it's on to regular season football, which starts in just 10 days and 13 days for the Browns' first game against those rough-and-tumble Carolina Panthers. On today's show, I'll tell you why most people have lost their minds. We'll discuss a brutal weekend for the Guardians and where they stand, and a whole lot more coming up on today's edition of The Bullpen with Adam the Bull.
Podcast is not for the faint of heart.
And I do think it's time for the Browns to move on.
It's not for those who ride the fence.
He's proven nothing.
But if you're looking for someone who tells it like it is about Cleveland sports,
Everybody does fandom their way.
you've come to the right place.
I don't think he's any good.
It's time for The Bullpen with Adam the Bull.
Bow, bow. Bow, 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 bow. Today's episode of The Bullpen is brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online, where the game starts. Fortunately, Saturday's game for the Browns in the preseason came to an end against the Chicago Bears. And I will not be recapping any statistics. I will not waste your time with who looked good and who looked. First of all, let me start with Jacoby Brissett. No, I actually got to back it up. I can't believe we have to go through this every year. Now, part of it is the NFL is such a monster and makes such a big deal on everything, and we cover football and the Browns at such an insane rate, honestly, because, frankly, nobody's interested in much anything else. You know, for those people who say, well, why don't you talk more about this team? Why don't you talk more about that team? You know, in radio, the ratings are a guessing game. The reality is nobody, the ratings are pretty much garbage in radio. You don't really know how many people are listening. It's a guesstimate, slightly educated. But when it comes to the podcast, when it comes to our show, the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show on YouTube, we know exactly how many people are listening. We know exact numbers. They don't have that in radio, so we know exact numbers. And the reality is, much to my chagrin, when we talk about anything but the Browns, our listenership goes down. It's sad but true. Now, ultimately, on my podcast, I talk about the Guardians whenever I want to talk about them. I don't worry if you're going to shut me off because I'm talking about the Guardians. I can live with that. But for the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, it's a group decision. It's not just my decision. So as much as there are times where I want to talk about the Guardians, unfortunately, not as many people are interested. So that's why we don't talk about them as much. So the fact that this town is so obsessed with the Browns has really poisoned people's brains. And I don't mean that we shouldn't care about the Browns. What I mean is that we've gotten to the point where media members and your fellow fans have convinced you that the preseason is meaningful, and it's not. And let me make it clear what I'm saying. I'm not saying it doesn't have value to the team. There is value to the team in the preseason and training camp and all that. But there's no value to us as fans and as media members. And the problem is, first of all, it's a tiny sample size for all these players. There's no game plan going on for these teams like they do in the regular season and certainly in the playoffs. There's no it's basically they're playing vanilla. They're not doing anything creative because they don't want to show too much off in the preseason. You're often, these days, rarely playing starters. There's always key guys on teams that are not playing. If they are playing, they're not playing much. And so what you have is this combination of many reasons why you can't read anything into the preseason. Yes, you could see some natural skill of players to a point, right? A guy's ability to show their athletic ability, their speed, stuff like that. But in terms of looking at stats, it's meaningless. And I say this, I scream about it every year. You rationally, most of you know this every year, And yet, every year you get caught. First of all, when it comes to Jacoby Brissett, so Jacoby Brissett, I don't even care. I don't even know what his numbers were. I don't care. I mean, I saw them. I don't know them off the top of my head. But I don't care what his numbers were in this preseason game. Let me for the folks that were going nuts about Jacoby Brissett, what were you expecting? I've said this. I don't know how many times I've said it, but I've said it a lot. Jacoby Brissett knows what he is. He is what he is. Jacoby Brissett is a top backup quarterback, a lower-level starter. Did you expect Jacoby Brissett to come out in a preseason game and look great? He's never really looked great in the NFL. So what were you, for those who are going nuts about Jacoby Brissett, they can't win, what you needed to see him throw 20 passes in a preseason game to know he's not that good? We've said this for a month now, longer than that. If you didn't realize that the Browns were going to have to win games a different way through the first 11 weeks, well, you've been living under a rock. That's on you, not on me or anybody else. I can't believe how many tweets I got. The Browns are going to suck. They can't win. And maybe they can. Maybe the team, which I think is really good, cannot do enough to overcome Jacoby Brissett and win enough games to get to the playoffs. I mean, honestly, I think they're going to go 5-6 with Jacoby Brissett. If they do, they're probably not going to make the playoffs. I'm hoping they can do better because I'm hoping that the rest of the team will play so well that they can overcome a below-average quarterback. But that's what he is, and that's what he's always been, and that's probably what he's always going to be. Now, maybe for a period of time here in this regular season, he'll be better than that. He'll have a few games. Maybe he'll surprise me. Maybe he'll surprise you. But I doubt it. I think he is what he is. I think he knows what he is. What on earth were you expecting? And even if you were expecting more, you can't jump off a bridge based on 20 preseason throws that are where he didn't have his top running backs and he didn't have his best receiver and he didn't have his left guard and he didn't have his right tackle. I mean, come on, folks. Get your heads out of your ass. And then we're going nuts. I mean, how many times do I have to say? I mean, again, the Browns, the year they went 0-16, they were 4-0 in the preseason. Doesn't that tell you all you need to know about how meaningful the preseason is? I remember there were some dopes, my fellow media members, some dopes in this town going nuts about the Browns going 4-0 in the preseason, as if that was going to mean something in the regular season, which, of course, it did not. And I can give you countless examples. I believe the Rams were winless in the preseason last year. Who gives a crap about the preseason? And by the way, if they had played well in the preseason, I wouldn't have cared either way. It doesn't matter. And if you're getting yourself worked up, that's on you. I mean, we've known what Jacoby Brissett is. We've known it. There's no surprises here. People going nuts. Let's start Joshua Dobbs. He looked great. He's playing against third and fourth stringers. Look great. He's never played a game in the league. If the Browns think he's better, okay, start him. But that's not going to happen because they don't think he's better because they have their brains attached to their heads and they know that he's just playing preseason against guys who are going to be on the street in a week. How do the rest of you not get this? Yes, Anthony Schwartz has looked like a bum in the preseason. Looked like a bum last year. He's still a draft pick from 1 year ago. I'm not going to cut him. I'm not cutting him because he had a bad preseason. Now, do I have a lot of hope that he's going to turn it around from what I saw in the regular season? I don't have a ton of hope. I didn't like the draft pick in the first place. It seemed like a stretch, and he hasn't looked like a good player. But I'm not cutting him because of the preseason. Now, a problem he had last year, bad hands, has shown itself in the preseason again. Okay, you want to factor that in, but that's just backs up what you already knew from last year. I'm not panicking about the wide receiver. My God, people want to trade Kareem Hunt for the 50th wide receiver. People are out of them. You've all lost your mind. Not all of you. Some of you are normal, but the rest of you crazy. The rest of the guys deserve a chance. David Bell's never played in the league. Can we see what he's got? Again, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb have not taken a snap smartly because I don't want them taking a snap in the preseason. The Steelers played T.J. Watt, Deontay Johnson yesterday. Those guys both got hurt. Be interesting to see what their status is for the opener. Two of their better players. Do I have concerns about the Browns? Not based on the preseason. I don't the preseason doesn't factor in at all unless somebody gets hurt. That's the only way it would factor in. So, Wyatt Teller got banged up. I think he's okay. If he were to not play, okay, then that changes things a little bit, just like it did at center. I'm more concerned about the offensive line, not because of how they've played in the preseason, because two of their starters haven't played at all. I'm concerned because they lost their starting center, who was unproven to begin with. I'm concerned about defensive tackle position because I don't think they have any guys that are any good at that position. And not because of anything they did or didn't do in the preseason. It's because none of these guys have any kind of track record of success. But we'll see. Jordan Elliott hasn't played a ton. Perion Winfrey is a rookie. Let's see what they got. I thought it was stupid when fans went crazy like he was going to be great because of a video and Love in Cleveland. It's also stupid to write him off because he hasn't flashed in the preseason. Don't get carried away. At this point, you shouldn't even. The preseason's over. It's completely meaningless. If the Browns lose their opener to Carolina, which I don't think will happen, but if it does, it's not because of the preseason. It's because on that day, they weren't good enough. And by the way, I'm getting sick of hearing about Baker Mayfield in his preseason, too. I don't care how many passes he completes on backup defenses in the preseason. Let him make a big play when it matters. I did it on Twitter over the weekend. I'm shooting my shot right now. The Browns will not only beat Carolina in the opening week game, but Baker's going to throw more picks than Jacoby Brissett. Mark it down. And if it doesn't happen, I'll eat my words. Whatever. I'm okay with that. But I feel good about it. And so should you. And again, when it comes to the defensive line, I'm concerned about tackle. I'm not concerned about the end. Myles Garrett and Clowney haven't played. The starting lineup outside of defensive tackle, I'm very comfortable with what the Browns are running out there. I love Walker and JOK at linebacker. I love Clowney and Garrett on the end. I love everybody that's playing in the secondary, including some of the backups. Love it. And again, I think Cade York's going to be really good. And he made a long field goal, missed another. I don't care. Stop sending 7,000 tweets about a 70-yard practice field goal. I said it last week. I'll say it again. I don't care how far you can kick it. I don't care how many yards it'll be good for. Make them when they matter. That's all that matters when you're a kicker. I don't care how good your leg is. Are you going to make the 50-plus yard kicks in the big spots? That's all that matters for the kicker. You can't do that. Doesn't matter. I think he can. But my God, people are going bananas over him. He's a freaking kicker, for crying out loud. He is a freaking kicker. Take it down a notch. And I like him, and I think he's going to be good. I have confidence in him, even though he has missed two 50-plus yard field goals. He's got to make almost all of them, and he's got to make every one in a big spot. Every one. That's what you got in that division. In this division, in the AFC North, you have great kickers. They all make big kicks. He's got to be right there with them. Get it done. That's it. We haven't seen Amari Cooper in the preseason. We haven't seen Joel Bitonio in the preseason. We haven't seen Jack Conklin in the preseason. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, Greg Newsome, Denzel Ward. These are your best players. And they haven't played. And you want me to I got to start crying and whining that the Browns are going to suck because of what happened in the preseason when most of their best players have not played? Are you out of your freaking mind? Everybody's got to pull themselves together on this one. because the whining and bellyache. I cannot believe how many pathetic losers sent me a tweet after the game on Saturday saying the Browns going to suck, long year, and maybe they will, but it's not because not because Brissett threw 20 passes in the preseason and he wasn't great. And he was fine, by the way. He was fine. And again, going back to what I started this whole conversation with, you knew or should have known what Jacoby Brissett is and was. And ignore the 20 passes in the preseason. Look at his track record in the NFL. He's not making big plays. He's not putting the team on his back. He generally doesn't turn the ball over. Hand it off, quick passes, get them out, get your skill position players. Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper, etc., etc., etc. Get them the ball and let them do the work because Jacoby Brissett is not a very good quarterback. He's never been a very good quarterback. He will never be a very good quarterback, most likely. So get over yourselves, get over the depression, and let's go. Stop one. Oh, it's going to be so Brownsy to lose to the Panthers. Oh, shut up. Get rid of this loser mentality. Stop living in your fears. And even if they lose, not the end of the season, it would suck. Yes, it's going to suck if they lose to Baker. I'm going to hate it. It's going to drive me nuts. And so are all you. But life's not over if it happens. Preseason stinks. I think the preseason is now over. Yeah, that's it. It is now over. I don't know. No maybes about it. And I can't wait for real football games. Real football games that matter with starters and stars to hit the field starting on Thursday night next week. All right, folks. BetOnline.net, fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, the NBA, the NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. I'll be right back. When I return, we'll get to the Guardians. Oof. Guardians have been playing great, but not this weekend. They stunk up the joint. That's next. So, as you know, if you listen to this podcast regularly or watch it, I was very nervous about this road trip to San Diego and Seattle. I said that if they went 3-3, I'd sign for it. Now, they did go 3-3, but I lied because now I'm disappointed. Why? Because they swept San Diego, played very well in those games, got the big break that Yu Darvish didn't pitch. And they go into a 4-game weekend series in Seattle, and as I've talked about, Seattle's a pretty good team. They're playing well, and you were facing some good pitchers. But I was hoping they'd at least split the series. Once you beat San Diego, you split the series, you go 4-2. It's a great road trip. Unfortunately, they just couldn't hit the whole weekend. I think they scored 7 runs, if I remember correctly, in the 4 games, and they lose 3 out of 4. Lost 3-1 on Thursday, 3-2 on Friday. They came back and won Saturday night 4-3 and then got shut out yesterday. They couldn't, I can't even remember, like 5 hits, 4 hits. It was terrible. Robbie Ray is obviously a really good pitcher. I think he won the Cy Young last year for Toronto, if I remember correctly. But, 5 hits today. I mean, they just couldn't do anything. I don't think they had any hits with runners in scoring position. They didn't have any. Oh, they got 1 hit. That's true. Austin Hedges actually got a hit and stole a base today, of all things. His second of the year. Aaron Savali got off to a great start, and then, as he often does, has that one blow-up inning. You have 3-run homer to Dylan Moore in the 5th, and then got knocked out in the 7th after he gave up another run. Obviously, you can't trust him. he's we won't see him in the playoffs. I don't even know if he's going to be on the roster. If he is, he'll be in the bullpen. Now, listen. You shouldn't count chickens. I'm saying he's going to be on the playoff. He's not going to be on the playoff roster. The Guardians have, I think, 36 games left, right? 110, 126, right? 36 games left. They're 2 games up on the Twins, who won again yesterday. They had a nice weekend. So they picked up 2 games on the Guardians from Friday through Sunday. So they're 2 out. I think the White Sox are done. They're showing no life at all. I bet you they should fire La Russa this offseason. They've dropped 4 in a row. They're now 2 games under 500. They're 5. They're not out of it like number-wise, but I don't think they got it in them. But the Twins, I give them credit. They win 3 in a row this weekend, despite the fact they got, I think, 19 guys now on the injured list. Their run differential is only 1 behind the Guardians. So 2 games back. Again, both teams 36 to play. They got a lot of games against each other. This playoffs is no short thing for the Guardians. They are the favorites. Obviously, a 2-game lead this late in the season is worth something. But, obviously they got to snap out of it. And we were expecting. Now, this is the key here. The Guardians have been up and down all season. They've had their hot streaks, their cold streaks. And they've been playing so well really since early August that you were like, okay, they're probably due for another cold spell. And they had dropped, remember, the first 2 of that series with the Tigers, they won the first game of the series with the Tigers at home about 2 weeks ago. And then they dropped 2 in a row, and you're like, okay, maybe the slump is coming. Now, and then since then after that, they won 4 out of 5 before going to Seattle, and they lose 3 out of 4. Now, they're coming back home. It's going to be a tough homestand. Baltimore's a decent team. After the day off today, you got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday against Baltimore, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday against Seattle. We know what Seattle just did. Looks like they're gonna face Robbie Ray, who shut him out yesterday. Again, Luis Castillo, who's been really good, he's going to pitch in that series also. And then I think Wayne Kirby's going in the other game. They didn't see him in this series. I think he's the one guy they missed, if I remember. I think so. I believe so. So, yeah, right, because Kirby's pitching for them tomorrow or whatever their next game is. So it's going to be a challenging homestand. Then you go to Kansas City for 3, and then after that you play eight out of the next 12 games after the Kansas City road 3-game series. 8 out of 12 against the Twins. It's all going to come down to these next few weeks. That's it. You got about 5 weeks left in the season. Can the Guardians hold on? They've dropped to 8 games over. They have not been able to get over that 10-game over plateau. I think they'll be fine. I still think they're going to win the division. Obviously, it was a bad weekend. We know, I've said this all year. You have a lineup of inexperienced hitters. They've kind of gone cold together, just like they've gone hot together. Hopefully, we've seen huge peaks and valleys this year for this team. They have not had a massive bad streak in the second half. From July 23rd to August 5th, I guess they went, 2-4, 3-5, 5-5. They were 6-8 over a 2-week stretch. It's not terrible. But now they got to end this right here. And they got to take care of business against Baltimore. It'll be Quantrill, McKenzie, and Bieber in that 3-game series. But when you think about if the Guardians do make it to the playoffs, and you think about what their rotation could potentially look like in the postseason, you have to believe that it's definitely not going to. I mean, Savali's no shot at making the rotation unless something very weird happens. I would think, Quantrill's going to be the 3, most likely, the way he's pitched. Plesac did pitch well. Got his first win in forever. I don't really care about pitcher wins, but got his first win in forever on Saturday when the Guardians, nice comeback in that one. But probably even though McKenzie's been their best pitcher, I would assume in a longer series, Bieber pitches game 1, McKenzie pitches game 2, Quantrill pitches game 3. The question is, do they try to go short rest back to Bieber, or do they go with Plesac in a game 4? I hate the short rest. I like using 4 starters. I know it's not a great spot because you can't pitch Savali, and Plesac's been very inconsistent. So you don't have a 4th pitcher you could trust. I don't even know how much you trust Quantrill. I mean, overall he's pitched well of late, but he's still pretty hard to trust. Quantrill is he's had a weird stretch here in August. He has 2 starts against Detroit and Arizona, 2 terrible teams, where he's pitched 12 innings and given up 8 runs. And then he has 3 starts against good teams, Houston, Toronto, and San Diego, in which he's pitched 20 innings and given up 0 runs. So hopefully that's a sign of things to come, because Houston's going to be in the playoffs, Toronto and San Diego might be, certainly Arizona and Detroit are not. He's pitched better against the better teams. It's really strange. So, I mean, he's just been inconsistent all year. It's like he has 2 or 3 good starts a month and 2 or 3 bad starts a month. But they got no choice. He's clearly going to be their 3rd starter, and the question again is, will they use Plesac in a game 4, or will they go short rest again? I think it led to Kluber running out of gas back in the day in 2016 in the World Series. With all the injury problems the Bieber's had, I wouldn't do that. Final thoughts to wrap things up next, right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. Okay. So, right here in the bullpen, we'll be doing all the games. We'll be doing all the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show as well, the NFL. I just want to remind you that I'll be picking all the NFL games and probably the Buckeyes as well. Also want to let you know that you can, please, if you want me to make videos for you, if you want me to make a video for your fantasy draft, which I've done a bunch of times, congratulations to somebody, get well wishes, words of encouragement, which I did for somebody recently, happy birthday, check out my Cameo page. Check out Cameo /Adam the Bull. I love doing the videos. I always get back pretty quick to people with them, and so far people have been very satisfied with the ones I've done. Also, check out my website, adamthebull.com, where you can book me to do I can marry you, speaking engagements and stuff like that. Just reach out to me through there. And, of course, as always, check me out on Twitter at Adam the Bull. Make sure you check out the Locked On Browns podcast with my buddy G. Bush and Jeff Lloyd. One last thing, college football getting underway this past weekend in what they call Week 0. I actually watched a lot of that Minnesota Northwestern game. I saw the quotes before in Ireland. It was pretty cool. It made me want to go to Ireland, by the way. Isn't that funny? Right? They sold it well. I saw the reports about how, like, Scott Frost was all fired up because his offensive linemen were throwing up in practice. Like, that's some great accomplishment. That's not good to be throwing up. Like, you're a man because we got you to throw up. I mean, that's so stupid. Scott Frost is a meathead. He's done a terrible job. But obviously the Buckeyes will play this weekend, and everybody's pumped for this game. What's amazing is that Ohio State is the preseason number 2. Notre Dame is the preseason number 5. It's not like they're unranked or number 19 or something. They're number 5 in the country. The game obviously is in Columbus, and the Buckeyes were. And I know that Notre Dame's got some injuries they're dealing with, but my gosh, a 17.5 point favorite just tells you, even between 2 and 5 in the rankings, there's a pretty big gap. Number 1 team, Alabama, playing Utah State. They're a 41 point favorite this weekend. Utah State actually won their first game. And the number 4 team, Clemson, plays next Monday night at Georgia Tech. There's no line on that game for some reason. And let's see. Who's the number 3 team? Why can't I think of it? Georgia. Well, that's a great game, too. Oregon and Georgia. at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Georgia's a 17.5-point favorite in that game. And for those who care, Michigan will host Colorado State. Nice, tough game to start with, I say sarcastically. That's going to do it for this edition of The Bullpen. Hope you enjoyed. Please watch the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show today and every weekday, streaming live from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Subscribe to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show on YouTube, and under the channels, you will find this podcast, The Bullpen with Adam the Bull. I'll see you tomorrow right here in The Bullpen.